The Women's National Basketball Association is currently facing one of the most critical moments in its history as negotiations for a new collective bargaining agreement hang in the balance. After more than a year of talks, the WNBA and the Women's National Basketball Players Association agreed to extend their deadline by 30 days, pushing the new expiration date to November 30th, 2025. This extension came just 24 hours before the original October 31st deadline, signaling both hope and urgency as the two sides work to avoid a potential work stoppage that could disrupt the entire 2026 season. The story began in October 2024, when the WNBPA made the bold decision to opt out of their current collective bargaining agreement, which was originally set to run through 2027. The Players Association declared their intention to secure what they called a share of the business we've built, recognizing the explosive growth the league has experienced in recent years. This growth has been undeniable, with the WNBA shattering attendance records in 2025 and securing broadcast rights deals that have jumped from virtually zero in 2002 to around $60 million annually, with projections to reach $200 million as part of a combined deal with the NBA. Despite these impressive numbers, tensions between the league and the Players' Union have escalated dramatically in recent months. As recently as Tuesday, October 29th, WNBPA counsel Aaron Drake appeared on The Athletic's No Off-Season podcast and bluntly stated that a deal by the Friday deadline was not going to happen. Drake criticized the league for what she called a lack of urgency, saying it takes two to tango and that finding a rhythm and getting on the same beat has been difficult. The WNBA fired back sharply, urging the Players Association to spend less time disseminating public misinformation and more time joining us in constructive engagement across the table. The central issue at the heart of these negotiations is how revenue should be shared and how player salaries should be structured. The Players' Union has consistently pushed for a salary framework that ties player earnings to a percentage of the league's revenue, similar to how NBA players receive approximately 50% of their league's revenue. Currently, WNBA players receive only 9% of total revenue, according to recent reports. The WNBPA is calling for minimum standards for game and practice facilities, better retirement benefits, and enhanced family planning and pregnancy benefits. The league, however, has proposed maintaining a revenue-sharing model similar to the current CBA, featuring a fixed salary cap with additional uncapped revenue sharing only after hitting specific revenue targets. The public battle intensified when NBA Commissioner Adam Silver made controversial comments on the Today Show on October 21st. When asked whether WNBA players deserved a larger share of revenue, Silver responded that share isn't the right way to look at it, instead suggesting the focus should be on absolute numbers in terms of what they're making. He added that WNBA players would get a big increase in this cycle of collective bargaining, and that they deserve it. The union pushed back hard against these comments, accusing the league of trying to put lipstick on a pig. Players themselves have been vocal about their demands, with WNBA athletes sporting shirts bearing the message, "Pay us what you owe us," during warm-ups for a game on July 19, 2025. So what happens if the two sides can't reach an agreement by the November 30th deadline? The situation is complex and could unfold in several different ways. First, another extension is always possible, though the WNBA has an extremely tight off-season schedule to manage, including a two-team expansion draft and a massive free agency period where nearly all the league's veterans will be seeking new deals before the 2026 season begins in May. If the deadline passes without a new agreement, it doesn't automatically trigger a lockout or strike. Instead, the two sides could enter what's called a status quo phase, where the working conditions and terms of the current CBA would remain in place while negotiations continue. However, without an extension, the door would be opened for a potential work stoppage, either through a strike initiated by the players or a lockout initiated by the owners. If a lockout occurs, players would lose access to team facilities and many of the benefits they currently enjoy. If players opted to strike, they would be prohibited from communicating with coaches and team executives, leading to major disruption. A work stoppage could result in the 2026 season being delayed or even canceled if a new CBA isn't signed into effect by May, a growing possibility that has many worried about the league's momentum. The stakes couldn't be higher for both sides. The league's stability and the players' careers are on the line at a time when women's professional basketball is experiencing unprecedented growth and cultural relevance. During the pandemic in 2020, there was a compelling reason for both sides to compromise and conduct a bubble season, because being isolated from the public for an entire year could have stunted the league's growth. Now, with the WNBA riding a wave of popularity and mainstream attention, both parties have strong incentive to find common ground, yet fundamental disagreements over revenue sharing continue to keep them apart. Looking back at history provides some context for the current situation. During the last CBA talks in 2019, the WNBPA and WNBA agreed to a 60-day extension just 3 days before the deal was set to expire on October 31, 2019. A new deal was ultimately ratified on January 14, 2020, and became effective 3 days later. However, the circumstances were different then, as there wasn't the major time crunch that exists now with expansion and free agency looming. Reports indicated that even before the current extension was announced, sources throughout the league did not believe a work stoppage was imminent, though the possibility remains real. The 30-day extension represents what one analysis called a temporary regroup rather than a resolution. Both parties are expected to meet frequently throughout November to bridge the remaining gaps, though the WNBPA has publicly indicated that substantial issues remain unresolved. For players with existing contracts, the extension provides some stability, but for free agents and newcomers, it prolongs uncertainty about how their compensation may be affected under a new agreement. The immediate consequence of this extension is that the league has successfully avoided a sudden end to the CBA, while off-season activities can progress with minimal interruption. Players continue to have access to salaries, healthcare, and contractual protections that would have otherwise expired. As November unfolds, all eyes will be on whether the WNBA and WNBPA can overcome their differences and forge a new agreement that reflects the league's growth while ensuring its long-term sustainability. The outcome of these negotiations will shape not just the immediate future of women's professional basketball, but could set precedents for how revenue is shared in growing sports leagues for years to come.